Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, and I am joined once again by JXEDITOR, who, let's just get this out of the way right from the off, who hopefully we can hear this time. JX, how are you doing? Okay, we've got 30 seconds delay, so... Are you silent again? Oh, for fuck's sake, man. Fix your shit. Okay, we have some technical issues here, folks. Once again, once again, we got a lot to talk about though. This is a stacked episode. Um, I actually can't hear you at all right now. So I'm assuming you're fixing shit with whatever's going on. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna keep this going and then just try and come back in. I guess. Um,
How about
yeah.
now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, let's check the stream though. The stream's the most important thing. Keep this going, and then just
And we've
try
still
and
got some
come
time.
back in.
Tell me about the episode while I wait.
Well, hang on.
Oh, cool.
Okay, you're back. I say, sweet. Okay, here we go. We're 2 minutes in. Yeah. So we're up to part 5 right now. Part 5 of 8, I believe. So we still got 3 more weeks of this shit to get through. This was part 5, Shadow Warrior. This was meant to be the big show-stopping episode. Apparently, from what I read, it certainly wasn't in a cinema near me. I don't know if it was just in the US. They were screening this episode in some movie theaters, which I'm sure there's an audience out there for somewhere, for something like this. But I was quite happy to just watch this on the small screen. I wasn't all too jazzed about this. The big selling point of this one, of course, is Hayden Christensen returning. I will say just right off the bat, and I'm kind of jumping ahead to one of my future notes, didn't necessarily have a creepy CGI face in this episode. He actually looked like normal Hayden Christensen. I don't know what went wrong at the end of the previous episode, because that was like Warner Brothers, the Flash movie makers, making Hayden Christensen. And it was weird and it was uncanny, but it actually seemed like Hayden Christensen in this one. This to me feels like the key jangly episode. This is the Dave Filoni, what's it called? Vanity Project, where he's finally getting to put all of his characters that he's ever created in live action. And once again, there's not much explanation of things. It's if you've watched Clone Wars, if you've watched Rebels, you know all this shit. But for someone who's just new to this, they're going to be completely lost. Anakin's first line to Ahsoka in the last episode was, "Hey, Snips." And like I've seen enough Clone Wars to know what that means. You of course you know what it means. But someone who
No,
hasn't
no
watched
idea.
that, someone who hasn't watched that, they're going to be like, "The fuck is Snips? Who's Snips?" you know. But anyway, I'm going to pass over to
No,
you.
I mean, I think a pet name or like a nickname kind of is self-explanatory.
Well, I guess so, but there's a lot more other than just Snips in this episode that gets mentioned that is going to be very confusing to some people, myself included, which, you're on the stream, you're the Star Wars aficionado, hopefully you can help me out, and we'll see. I'm going to pass over to you first, though. Your initial hype going into this episode, based on the ending of the last one, were you curious to see where this one goes, and did this episode meet your expectations, whether they were lofty or not?
I don't have time. I had a trip to go on this weekend. I didn't have time to have expectations.
That's fair enough.
I did like I did I enjoy this episode? Yeah, it was fine. It was probably the best episode we've gotten so far, but we're not talking about like the toppest of shelves. We're talking about like a Bacardi spiced here. It's fine. Like, it's not top shelves, but it's not like Jenkins.
We've got as good as
Jenkins,
fine. That's the quality we're talking.
Jenkins is rubbing alcohol made from sugar, essentially.
We've got a comment
Also, my
from...
first note: no, Hugh Yang, don't jump. You have so much to live for.
Yeah, he's just cradling that helmet, just like, oh. We've got a comment from Seaworld Man that says JX Mike is good. Yeah. Let's hope it stays that way. Let's hope we don't have any more technical issues like we did last time.
Yes.
My first note is actually based on the previously, and I'm not going to belabor this point because I believe I mentioned this, albeit very fragmentedly last time, based on the 2 streams that we had to do. I don't believe that Sabine would so willingly join Ray Stevenson in his quest. She has just basically witnessed him murder her fucking mentor, teacher, friend, possible lover. I don't get the relationship between these two. We keep getting told that they're meant to be really close, that they've had this extended history together, and when I see these 2 actresses together, they couldn't look less interested. There's no... Even in this episode later on, where she's like, oh, Sabine's gone with the villains, we should do something about... Like, there's no sense of urgency. There's no personal stakes in this. But nonetheless, I don't feel like Sabine would just join Ray Stevens after everything he just did. And he's like, well, oh yeah, give me the map and I totally won't kill you after I get it at any point once we've achieved what we want to achieve. And she's just like, yeah, okay. And she just goes with him. I don't believe that.
Consider her options.
Fight till the bitter end. Once a rebel, always a rebel. Flee.
But she wants to see Ezra again.
Yeah, but after her mentor was just killed? That seems like a pretty big deal. And then she's just going to be taken aboard an enemy craft.
You just talked about how little these 2 seem to care about each other.
No, but for the context of the show, they seem to, at least in dialogue, they keep saying that they have immense feelings for each other and closeness with each other, whether that be student-mentor or possibly something more based on how sometimes the actors portray the scenes together. Yeah, we keep getting told a lot, but it just doesn't come through in the performances. But nonetheless, I believe the show is wanting me to believe that these 2 characters are really close, even though that doesn't really come across in terms of that emotional takeaway of it. But yeah, I don't know, the choice just seemed really quick and just like, yeah, like we need Sabine to be here to add another dimension to this whole rescue quest that we're setting up by the end of this episode, and where it was clearly heading anyway. Yeah, I don't know. So I have that, and yeah, Jason, I always keep thinking of Heavy Rain with that. Jason Sindula, I think that's his last name, saying, I've got a bad feeling. Right after he's just witnessed the entire almost the entire X-Wing fleet get completely obliterated, the enemies acquire the map and hyperspace away. After all of that, he says, I've got a bad feeling. But like, shut the fuck up, you little shit. Like, this is serious shit. Like, and again, this is another one of my notes later on. Why has Hera brought her son into an active war zone? That is a bad mother. She is a despicable mother.
This is like a pre-established thing. She took that kid to the Battle of Endor. This is some pussy shit compared to that.
Well, then I've got problems with that as well, because that is not a cool thing to do.
That is a fair thing to have a problem with. But this is like complaining that Batman kills people in the Justice League when really you should be complaining that Batman kills people in Batman vs Superman. Yes, you're right. It's bad that he does that, but now it's just consistent to the character.
Yeah, okay, fair point. But we actually offered we were chatting about this a little bit earlier. We didn't go like insanely in depth, but we kind of got broad strokes opinions on it. And I believe it's Dark Empire. And you mentioned about the behind the scenes of it as well, which I was kind of privy to. About you had I think it was like the Timothy Zahn novels, and I actually can't remember who was the author of Dark Empire. I forget now.
Tom Veet.
That's it. And they were being written at the same time, and the Timothy Zahn stuff was considered canon. I think everything being written was kind of considered canon, and they were some looser than others. But obviously, I think the beginning of Dark Empire actually refers to the Thrawn trilogy, and there are certain characters in there that, even though it doesn't quite work out timeline-wise in terms of how many children Leia's having, she must have been like a fucking baby machine those last few like years and months. It's crazy. But they mentioned that they have the twins, right? Jason and Jaina Solo. Oh, more Jasons cropping up. There we go. And she says like, oh, I hope they're okay, and Han's like, don't worry, they'll be fine, they're being looked after on blah 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 blah. It was clearly just written in there as a retcon just because the author didn't want to bother with those.
It was on New Alderaan.
Oh, New Alderaan. He was like, clearly the author didn't want to concern himself with crowbarring two infants into it. But it's an explanation.
That line was added retroactively, so like they were already just not a part of it, and then they had to kind of add that in context.
But even still, like, I appreciate the effort on that, because there is an explanation there. Because, you know, if this had been Hera, she'd have just been bringing those toddlers, bring your toddler to work day into an active war zone. Anyway, but yeah, we can go on to the episode proper this time, Shadow Warrior. So if you want to kick off with whatever your first note is.
Well, I'm glad that they didn't. Oh, besides, no Hu Yang, don't jump. You have so much to live for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they didn't overplay Hera just ignoring Jason feeling the water.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's just like, oh, not now, Jason. But, Mom, I feel something. Jason, not now. So anyway, but, Mom, Jason, I'm busy. They didn't do that. I'm glad they didn't do that.
Which surprises me, because how long
for them to do that.
It surprises me that they didn't do that, because how long scenes are dragged out in this series so far, especially in the first 2 episodes. I'm surprised they wouldn't drag that out a little bit longer to get that runtime.
I was honestly surprised. As soon as he started doing it and she ignored him the first time, I was so upset. I was so like, oh no, here we go.
Go on. Sorry. Yeah. Carry
on. No, I like that once the pilot learned that his dad was a Jedi, he's just like, okay, I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. That was fun.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, not this shit again. Okay, fine. No, I like that. That was a fun moment. Conversely, one of my first notes, and I mentioned this to you, in capital letters, I have put, why is everyone in this show so caked? And I have put a little peach emoji. People are posting it on socials, and like I noticed it from the trailers, but Lord have mercy, Hera's got it going on. So Ewan McGregor, fair play to you, my friend, fair play to you. You have done well. It's not just her as well, it's like everyone in the show. It's insane. We haven't I don't know what other characters. Do you think Ezra is going to be caked? Is it going to extend to every cast member in the show?
Fingers crossed, man.
You know, because if you're giving us a little something this side, you know, you got to equal it. You got to show a little something on this side too. It's only fair.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, of course. Well, I mean, I assume you've seen what's Mickelson's brother's name? Lars.
Yeah, the other one, the other brother.
The one who actually kind of looks like an alien.
It's funny though, because I actually don't remember how many years ago it was now, but at Star Wars Celebration, they had this big. I wasn't there for this one, but I saw the artwork. There was this big artistic mural kind of thing of all the episodes of Star Wars, and it was all the animated stuff in between, and it was kind of done in almost like a Drew Struzan kind of design, like this uniform design across, you know, animated things in a sequential timeline from the beginning to the end. And they had a picture of Thrawn on there, and Thrawn looked exactly like Pierce Brosnan. It was almost like they drew a representation of Pierce Brosnan and coloured him in blue, and that was it. And I remember at the time people. I can't remember what year it was. It wasn't It might have been 2 celebrations ago. I can't remember. But if you just type in Thrawn Pierce Brosnan, I'm sure it'll come up.
Was this the base that they used?
I can't see because of brightness. It wasn't that. I will try and find it after we've done this review. But trust me, so like people were losing their minds. People were going like, "Oh my god, Pierce Brosnan's going to be." This was before any casting information came out, so people were thinking, "Is this some kind of confirmation?"
Oh my god!
Have you found it?
Oh yeah, that is Brosnan-y.
He's kind of got his back to the camera, I think.
He's got a different nose.
But yeah, no, well,
yeah.
we're gonna get Thrawn.
You'll get. Hang on, it'll adjust. It'll adjust.
Adjust. It's blinding screen at the moment. You might want to bump the brightness down a little bit. Yeah, no, I'm not getting it. But yeah, I mean, we're not going to get Thrawn. We might get a tease of him at the end of next episode, and then we'll just get him in 2 episodes. They're basically going to Moff Gideon this shit.
Yeah, of course.
That's a problem. Because imagine all of the amazing shit we could have had with Thrawn, getting to know him across a full series if it was economic with the storytelling. Alas. Anyway, this is going to be like probably the biggest talking point of this whole episode. This is really what the episode's pushing. Ahsoka and Anakin in the world between worlds. I've already mentioned this, but my first note, I put Anakin looks a bit better in the face now. We still don't know how Anakin knows Ray Stevenson and vice versa. I really hope we get more...
in the knew Anakin Skywalker.
Bath time. Oh my god, it's the lads. Yes, it is. We are here. We're talking Star Wars. Nice of you to join us. We're only 16 minutes in. We're getting into it proper now, so hopefully you can stick around for a little bit.
No idea what you were talking about for a second there. It's like bath time. OMG, it's the lads. So I was like, do you need me to go?
Do you know bath time now? He's like tuning into all of these. He's cool. He's cool with us. Yeah, we've got like no information in, and this show really annoys me with its writing that we have these massive opportunities to have characters like actually explain things, talk about things, flesh out some of the lore, and we really don't get that. We just know that Ray Stevenson somehow knows Anakin, whether he knows him personally, whether he just knows of his exploits. This would be an opportunity where Anakin could talk about that, maybe. We don't get Ray Stevenson in this episode at all, and it just really bothers me that we've got this tremendous actor in this who looks great. Like, he's physically imposing, could be a wonderful character. He's an interesting... well, he could be an interesting character, but we've had nothing from him. And I thought maybe Anakin would mention something about him in order to give more weight and more... well, just more of a character to one of our main villains, essentially, which sadly I don't think we're going to get, really, with only 3 episodes left. One of my biggest problems... I got a lot of problems with this episode. Is it cool seeing Hayden Christensen back? Yeah, and I think that's one of my notes later on. It just kind of hit me. It was like, you know... Well, I say it's good to see him back. He's already been back, Kenobi, and they fucked it. Like, he was good for what they gave him, but again, just absolutely wasted. And I feel like they kind of wasted him again in this one. But you know, he's an absolute sport. I've always liked him as Anakin. I think he's great, and it's nice that as an actor, and you know, even in the role of Anakin, he's kind of matured into it. Despite trying to play the characters from that same age, you can tell there's more of a maturity to his performance and his acting, which I really appreciate. So that's a positive out of the way. But the negative is I just don't feel like they do anything remotely interesting with Anakin. Similar to what I just mentioned with Ray Stevenson's character, this is your moment. You have got live action Anakin with live action Ahsoka. There are conversations to be had. This was one of the problems that I had in Book of Boba Fett. I forget which episode it was, but it was the one that didn't have Boba Fett in it. And you have Ahsoka next to Luke. That's massive. Like, this is the son of your former master. Shit has happened. A lot of stuff has happened in the galaxy. There are conversations to be had here. There are questions, that dialogues that we could have between these two characters that we're not getting. And it's the same with this, really.
Are we to assume that due to the casualness of them just kind of talking to each other, like Luke and Ahsoka, that those conversations have been had, but it's all information we already know?
Yeah, it's all in retrospect, so what am I getting? We get nothing to actually see. Great. That's wonderful as a viewer, you know? I see what you're saying, and you might argue, well, we don't need to see that, but I'm like, well, you've got these two characters, why not see it? This is like prime real estate for this kind of shit. And it's the same with this one too.
or at least some acknowledgement that the conversations happened in this episode.
Yeah.
It's like your son told me what happened. Those
Well, what?
words, and we're good.
Yeah.
Then we know the conversation at least happened.
What one of my things that I was sort of like hypothesizing with Book of Boba Fett was, has Anakin materialized to Ahsoka? Has he like appeared as a Force ghost? Has she had conversations with Anakin? Does she know everything that befell Anakin? Like she's fought Vader before. She clearly knows what happened to Anakin, that he became Darth Vader. I'm assuming conversations may have happened with Luke, that she was like, yeah, I was on the Death Star too, and I like fought him and he died, but he like redeemed himself and killed the Emperor, but not really. Episode 9. I want more stuff like that. So I always thought that she may have seen Force Ghost Anakin, but I guess this episode confirms that she hasn't. She seems quite taken aback by seeing him for the first time, but there's no surprise. There's no questions like. In fact, no. I think she does ask like, "What is going on?" Does she ask, "Why are you here?" Like, "How are you here?" But it's never really answered this whole episode. I don't know much about the ins and outs.
Yeah, because she answers to finish your training or something.
Yeah, that's not an explanation. I have questions about this thing. Like, I haven't seen all of Rebels. I know cliff notes of it, so I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm not really entirely 100% sure how the World Between World works. I'm sure you'll explain it in just a second. But to my knowledge, you have to be like physical presence entering this realm through some kind of secret doorway or dimensional portal or something, but you have to physically be there. It's not like this place can conjure manifestations of things within your own mind and your own psyche. The people that inhabit it are people that have actually traveled to, like, it's a physical place that you can get to. So how is Anakin here? If Anakin is here, then I was seeing some rumors online, which thankfully they didn't confirm in this, but sometime during Revenge of the Sith, in obviously off screen, Anakin's made a beeline for the World Between Worlds, gone there to save his apprentice from drowning, and then going back to the regular scheduled programming of Revenge of the Sith, which is ridiculous and awful and terrible. But how it kind of presents itself in this, with all these weird trippy visions that are happening, this is almost like this is a conflict that's taking place within her own mind. And to my understanding, that's not something that can be done in the World Between Worlds. As I said, I thought it was a physical realm, a doorway to all of these portals through time. But it's not time travel. It's totally not time travel, but we can enter past events and future events in time, so it basically is. I don't know. I'm confused about this whole thing. JX, how is Anakin here? Please help me understand.
Wait, so how is Anakin in the World Between Worlds? I mean,
like,
I'm assuming he's just...
Is that physical Anakin? Has he, sometime during Revenge of the Sith, has he made the journey there?
I would
or is this
assume
just a vision?
that in the World Between Worlds, that does not matter. However, also it could be argued that... okay, so, well, one, I don't think if Ahsoka took the red lightsaber and cut right through him, he would have died. I think it would have probably been like the end of The Last Jedi, just with it phasing right through him. I think so I have no idea if any of like them. No. Okay. Considering the fact that they just started attacking each other, these things, and also Anakin wasn't there, these are definitely like entering memories. All I'll say is the World Between Worlds is entirely Filoni's creation, so I don't know what the rules are. However, from what I've seen, this is definitely some new information, because while you couldn't use it to change anything, the windows were to the actual events. And maybe because you can't change anything if you go into them, they just act like visions like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, the World Between Worlds is just this it's haven't you read Narnia? It's in there too.
I want to continue this conversation in just a second, but yes, bath time has prompted me. I'm going to get to comments now. Fear not. I'm kind of doing this balancing out. We've got a lot to discuss with this episode. Bath time says, I haven't seen this, but I've always wanted to ask you, Chris, if for all the bollocks in the Hobbit films, was the bit where Billy Connolly shouts to the king makes it all worth it? No, one cool line from Diane Ironfoot saying "to the king," which he actually says twice, is very cool, and it's a fun moment. But does that excuse all of the other bullshit in the Hobbit films? No.
What's that supposed to mean, you old tiddly widdly?
Oh no, not that scene either. No, so does Billy Connolly's line shouting "to the king" excuse Tariel, the terrible love story, the overuse of CGI, the pointless plot cul-de-sacs, the wacky slapstick humor? No. No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. Bath Time also says, is the O in the Ahsoka logo meant to look like the Death Star?
Probably not.
I'm
No,
not actually...
no.
Probably not. I think it's just meant to be a cool looking design. That's how I am. But I guess, we've got a couple of episodes, so I mean, there's the hyperspace. There's the hyperspace ring, but I don't think it has the little thing in the middle. It kind of just looks like a power button, doesn't it? On like a remote, like a TV remote or something. A little bit.
That would have I think like a dot or something.
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Bath Time says, I'm not that into Star Wars, but I wish it was more fun. Everything is too dark and boring now. Give me 3 teenagers at the Jedi school stealing a hover bike and trying to get to a party. No, because we had that with Sabine in episode 1, and it was terrible and cringe and awful. And we've had Space Vespers, and I don't want any more of that in my Star Wars. I just want like a classic hero's journey that harkens back to old school cinema and old school serials with a good traditional story. That's what I would like.
No, you don't, because if they do that, then you're going to point out that the original trilogy did that, and that it's not creative.
There are other stories that you can
it's
tell.
either. I know there are, but if they do that, then you're going to complain that they don't feel enough like Star Wars.
No, not
even
if
with
it's done
Andor,
well.
No, even with Andor, you still point out your main gripe with it is that it doesn't feel like a Star Wars story.
No, that's not one of my main gripes. I actually thought that was really refreshing, and I thought that was to its advantage. I'm just saying, if someone
I agree.
If someone doesn't like it and said that this doesn't feel like Star Wars to me and it's a bit slow and boring, I'm not going to disagree with them. I'm like, yeah, it is a slow burn, and yeah, it doesn't feel like Star Wars, but I actually appreciate that it's a slow burn, and I appreciate that it's a break from the same tepid shit that Disney keeps churning out with Star Wars. And then, so I was ready for conversations to happen. I was ready for an explanation as to how he's there. I'm gonna, especially with how this whole situation goes down, with the kind of flashbacks and him transforming into Vader periodically and seemingly disappearing at the end, I'm just gonna say this was all an figment of her imagination, and that was an actual physical Anakin there, because there's no way that it can be. But we don't get any fucking explanations in this shit, because why have actually interesting, well-written dialogue between two characters that would be great to see when we can have lightsaber fights? And we get straight to the lightsaber fight, and we had a whole episode last week dedicated to lightsaber fights, which went on for way too long, and we're right into another one with this one. And it's like, oh, aren't lightsabers so cool? And here's the thing, yes, lightsabers are really cool. Can some lightsaber fights be incredibly well choreographed and be exciting and thrilling? Absolutely. Can they serve a narrative function and almost be totems of these characters fighting each other? Absolutely. Oh, okay, I will continue. When they ignited the lightsabers in this, Disney has just killed the lightsaber for me. Lightsaber fights to me now are so boring. It feels like I'm having to go through the motions and just, okay, they're tapping lightsabers. Can we get to some actual dialogue and conversation between these characters that's meaningful? And that's the thing, when you go back to the original trilogy, and even some aspects of the prequels as well, but to a much greater extent the original trilogy, the lightsaber fights were instrumental. What the main focus of those was the relationships and interplay between the characters that are fighting. The fighting was kind of a means to an end and a way for these two characters to catharsize the shit that they're dealing with. As George Lucas mentions in interviews, he basically it's not about spaceships, it's not about laser swords, it's a soap opera. That's exactly what it is. It's the dialogue between the characters and their emotional states during these fights. You've got Obi-Wan Kenobi or Ben Kenobi fighting Vader on the Death Star, and you have those bits of dialogue in between, and you, even without the prequels at the time when it came out in 1977, you get that sense of history between those characters. You have the wonderful it's the emotional moments and the character moments that you take away from those fights. Empire Strikes Back, you've got the wonderful Bespin fight, which of course culminates with the whole I am your father moment. It's those moments that you remember. Yeah, the fighting's cool, but it just kind of serves it serves a purpose, but it's not the main crux of everything. And exactly the same in Return of the Jedi. It's the stuff going on in between. It's father and son fighting each other. It's the son is becoming like the father, and is continuing down that dark path. And of course the redemption arc at the end is wonderfully done, and the fight's great, but it's that emotion that comes through. And in the prequels you do get elements of that, I guess to a lesser extent. You have moments during the Mustafar fight, but the prequels was definitely more for spectacle, for sure, and showmanship with things. But in this one, when they fired up the lightsabers, I just thought, I'm done. Someone also needs to tell Disney that lightsabers aren't baseball bats. And, you see how fluid and acrobatic Anakin is with the lightsaber in the prequels, and they try and do bits like this, but it doesn't have the same level of choreography. There's some embarrassing kicks that Ahsoka tries to throw, and it looks like a middle-aged woman trying to kick, because that's exactly what it is. They're not particularly shot in a thrilling way, and the way they're swinging them, they just look so heavy and cumbersome, and it doesn't have the same kind of like balletic quality, at least of the time period that they're trying to go for. Yeah, the original trilogy, you could argue that they're more like broadswords clashing, which I don't mind that, I prefer. But certainly when you get into the prequels, and this is meant to be Anakin in his prime, Revenge of the Sith, doing all of that twirly shit on Mustafar, it's not quite the same level. I guess some very, very nerdy Star Wars people, way nerdier than I am about it, can probably say that like even his fighting style didn't look right. He's like holding this shit with like two hands and like proper like heavy swinging, and I'm like, that wasn't Anakin, was it? I don't think he was fighting like that in the prequels.
Oh yeah, no, that was Dijam. That was Form 7.
Oh, that was Form 7, but he doesn't use that shit.
Yes, it does. Yes, he does.
When?
Form 7, Dijam. It uses the stronger. It uses his physical build utilizes one's physical strength rather than their finesse.
I know what it is. I'm saying, when did he use that in the prequels?
I know we see some of it in the hallway with all the sparks, and he uses it a lot as Vader.
He one-hands as Vader.
He does in episode 5.
Oh, when he cuts the thing and he goes, wah! Like, that's the only bit that I can think of.
Well, also you are unwise to lower your defenses.
I thought he had to change his form to that based on the limitations of the suit and the movement.
There were a number of things he couldn't do because of there were a number of lightsaber styles he couldn't do, like a Taru, because of the suit.
Mm-hmm.
But Dijam So was always a bigger guy, so it was always in his favor.
Let's. I'm just gonna get some comments real quick. Oh, this is an interesting question. You're going to get a very, very different answer from both of us here. I know that for a damn fact. Bath Time says, tell us how you lads would save Star Wars then. So I believe, I don't want to speak for you, but I guess I'm going to, you would say that Star Wars doesn't need saving at the moment, but why don't you answer this first, and then I will give my answer to it.
I mean, I don't think Star Wars will always kind of generate money, so I don't think it necessarily needs saving. But what would I do with Star Wars? I'd probably found like essentially I'd start investing less in it, but producing about the same amount of content.
So okay, so you're investing less but producing the same content. Isn't that going to hurt the visual and the budget of everything?
I would found a studio specifically for this, for low budget but high turnout rate Star Wars, and I would probably call it either Star Wars or Lucas Legends. So
Isn't that just what
the
Lucasfilm is? That's like a subsidiary of Disney to purposely make Star Wars shit?
So I get what you're saying. So yeah, I'm specifically talking. I don't care if any of this shit conflicts with each other. This isn't about creating a interwoven narrative universe. This is like did you ever see Halo Legends?
No, but I heard it was terrible.
It was not great. It wasn't great, but conceptually, it's what I'm going for here. Whereas each, rather than being like one movie with a continuous narrative, it's different directors, different plot, different stories,
Mm-hmm.
different styles. And I think that if you it kind of, you know what they did with Star Wars Visions and how they didn't really give a shit about canon.
Mm-hmm.
That I would have found a whole studio to just do that, and then I would take more time with what's being produced by the big studios,
Mm-hmm.
and probably found a subsidiary studio that gets the money that essentially the TV studio, let it be its own thing, so that there's actually you're not you don't have to divvy up resources between movies and TV and determine who gets more attention. There's just a set amount for each section.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I agree with the idea of putting less money into it but producing the same or more content, more level of content, because I just think
Also, I'd create a what if series called Star Wars Infinities.
yes, I'm down for that. I do love me some Star Wars Infinities. We always chat about that, like at 4 a.m, I'll message you like, dude, if Revenge of the Sith was Infinities, like, what would you change? Like, we've had that conversation.
What would you change? No. Okay, let's Revenge of the Sith.
Oh God, Revenge of the Sith. What would I change? I can't remember. Do the changes usually come pretty early on in the narrative? I know the Return of the Jedi one happens at Jabba's palace.
The first one is at the very end. The second one is at the very beginning. Okay. So there's really no
Revenge of the Sith. Well, I guess the video game actually kind of did a bit of an Infinities ending where you could kill Obi-Wan and then you kill the Emperor. No, what would I change?
No, the galaxy belongs to me.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, this could be interesting. What if Mace Windu? What if Mace Windu did kill the Emperor in that room?
Like, instead of doing this, he just.
Like, what if Anakin took too much of a brisk walk towards the room, like he does it, like
Anakin does this because Windu does this.
Mm-hmm. Because there you go. Then you could do this. Then you could do this, right?
Does this.
So Order 66 doesn't.
Stab.
Order 66 doesn't.
That was for Fisto and the guy with the horns.
So Order 66 doesn't happen, but then you could run with a narrative of Mace Windu becoming the main villain, which I know you've been enamored with the idea of for a long time.
I like the idea of Mace Windu being the villain in Episode 9 because he would have to be insane by then because he's been in carbonite, and also he represents everything that was wrong with the Jedi.
Yeah. By the way, I've just saw Brinsley in the comments. I'm not ignoring
Really
you, my
apply to
friend.
episode 3.
We're getting through some of these comments. I'm going to give my answer to how I would save Star Wars in just a second. And Brinsley, I will get to your comment very, very shortly. It's good to see you back, though. It's good to see that you're still alive and kicking. You're back here. That's great. How would I save Star Wars? Okay, first off, it needs to take a fucking break. The films are definitely taking a break, but they need a longer break. We need some breathing room. People need to miss Star Wars again. So it needs to go away for a long time, but mainly the issue is a systemic one. It's in the producer's room, it's in the writing room, it's all of that. And it's kind of widespread across Hollywood at the moment, but it's people hiring people not based on their writing talents, based on their talents as whatever who they get involved. It's usually whether depending on what they've got between their legs, and that's like official. That was, we're gonna hire. We need more women in this writing room, or we need more people of color in this writing room, and that shouldn't matter whether they're male, female, whatever, in between, whatever. It should be the quality of professionalism, and fundamentally, are they qualified enough for the job? So I would turf everyone out of that room, and I would rehire people based on credentials and professionality. That's not a word. Professionalism. Rather than, does this fit any kind of agenda? Is this fitting like a narrative that we're pushing alongside this movie? Rip all of that stuff out and just go back to quality storytelling and entertainment. That's all you need to do. Don't crowbar all of this shit into the film.
Star Wars needs an agenda. Star Wars has never not had an agenda.
What was the agenda of the original trilogy then?
Are you kidding me? It was a massive anti-Vietnam War.
Well,
piece.
yeah. It's like there was a lot of bad shit happening in the world at the time, and a lot of miserable war films. So this one came out, and it was like, hey.
So there should. Let's get a pandemic Star Wars movie.
But it's kind of going back to what Bath Time said. He just said that, a lot of the things are like really postmodern, deconstructing the hero like Luke. You take this archetypal hero, but we're gonna like fucking drag him through the mud and make him depressed and make him fuck up and angry and miserable and go to that island to
make
die.
Him have a child with his half sister.
And it's
wait a second.
it's just shit. It's just
that's an entirely different.
As I say, just traditional enduring storytelling. That's quality entertainment. That's all, and that's not just it. That's every studio. That's everything. That's. People want escapism. And I'm not saying you can't put your characters through trials and tribulations. I'm not saying that, as long as it's congruous to the character. So it just needs to be ripped out, root, twig, and stem from systemically, and a complete rehire, new face of the company. Maybe like a sort of visionary behind it as well, perhaps. I know you sort of had George Lucas, who I know people are going to say, oh, well, he didn't direct all of them. I know he didn't direct all of them, and you say what you want about the prequels, there's some good elements to them, but it mostly doesn't stick the landing. But he nevertheless oversaw the entire story, so it is kind of his baby, even if he wasn't directing the movies. It needs someone like that. Anyway, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, so I'm going to leave that one there. Let's see. Bath Time says, oh my god, are they doing time traveling Force ghosts now? I technically don't think it's a Force ghost, but it kind of is a Force ghost, but it's also a figment of her imagination, so he's not actually there, but he could also technically be there, because Jason hears lightsaber fighting. It's weird, and it's not very well explained.
A Force ghost... Here's the thing. Like I said earlier, I don't think it matters that he's a ghost in the world between worlds.
I don't think he's a Force ghost, because he'd be like all blue and...
Well, that's what I'm saying. But in the world between worlds, it doesn't matter. Like, he's not see-through in the world between worlds, because you're also in the world between worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
go on, sorry.
Like he is a ghost. This is clearly the ghost him, because this has the post Return of the, like, this guy has been Vader and is now not Vader. So he's the ghost form of Anakin, but he's opaque because you're in the spirit world.
Yeah.
You know, it's like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, you see the giant panda-looking thing that's also like a creepy crawly lizard thing, and then it's all like ghost-like because it's a spirit, and then Aang follows it to the spirit world, where it's suddenly corporeal.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, corporeal.
Bath Times. I just want to get through these comments real quick, and then we'll get on with the rest of the episodes. Just firing through these real quick. Bath Time says it's Marvel humor now, isn't it? They quip in action scenes instead of having it as a tragedy of two good people having to fight because they took different paths. Yeah, a lot of the time. Yeah, people do call it Marvel humor. I guess that's where it did. Everyone's just like really sassy and wisecracking, and there is a time and a place for that, but I think a lot of the time, and certainly with Marvel films, it really does diminish the urgency and the emotion of a scene, the intensity of a scene. A lot of the time, it does take you out of it, and it's almost like we can't allow characters to go to that vulnerable place. We've got to be quippy, you know. Vato says, even that shit line about from my point of view the Jedi are evil is better than current cinema. Hey, I've always liked that dialogue, as shitty as some of it is. It feels, you know, it's better than some stuff like in, well, I hope that big ass door can handle this thing, or where they bring in like a lot of modern verbiage into the sequel trilogy stuff, and you just listen to it and you just go, that doesn't sound like Star Wars. Even the shit dialogue from the prequels, it has kind of this very theatrical feel to it. You could argue Shakespearean at some point, very, very loosely. That very lofty dialogue, that very pulpy, campy kind of dialogue that you found in a lot of old
It's not Shakespearean. It's
well, Romeo and Juliet in like Attack of the Clones.
No. What's the word? Vaudevillian.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Very stage production kind of trading dialogue between the two. But you know, that all goes back to what George Lucas was basing his stuff on. If you look at a lot of old cinema, a lot of the old serials that he was watching, and adventure, action, short films, it's all that kind of dialogue. It's all that very old timey dialogue.
If you take what like the original trilogy was based off of the Flash Gordon's Gordon of like the 50s and 60s,
Buck Rogers and so, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so the prequels are 30 years before that, and so the style is the movies that were made 30 years before that. To its detriment, I would say, but it does do that. And I would say that same thing could be argued that Big Ass Door is fine, because it's just the other direction.
Yeah, there's things like you got a boyfriend, cute boyfriend, you know, just stuff like that just stuck out to me.
Anakin, you know, you're the first boyfriend
deleted
my
scene.
sister's ever...
Deleted scene doesn't count. It's not in the movie. I knew you were going there. I'm gonna end that shit right now.
Hi, Annie.
That should have been in the film. They fucking like extended the pod race sequence by like an extra 5 minutes. Dude, we should have got Kitster riding that crappy CGI camel. I needed it.
Look at this guy. Look at this furry little turd.
What, Kitster?
Oh, the dog.
Oh, I couldn't see it because of the comments.
I see.
Brinsley says, how's it going? All long time no see. Hope you've all been well. Need to catch up on Ahsoka at some point. What would you rate the show at the moment?
5.
It's not good.
5 out of 10.
I would go lower than that, but yeah, it's just so average. I'd say it's bad. I'd straight up say it's bad. The story.
Well, here's the thing. Wait. It's a 5 out of 10, but Empire Strikes Back is still 11.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably. Oh God, if you're gonna ask me how, I don't think this is as bad as Kenobi. It's probably better than Book of Boba Fett as well. That's the kind of level that we're talking, but it's still bad. It's still not good by any stretch of the imagination, at least in my opinion. Anyway, let's carry on through the episode. I know there's a few other comments that we need to get to, but we've got to keep the ball rolling with the actual episode.
Tell us
as well.
in the comments while we discuss the episode what your Star Wars Infinities in Episode 3 would be.
Sort of going to just like the conversation thing real quick. I'm like, she fought Vader. She knows he killed younglings and all the things that happened during Order 66. Obviously, she sensed it, didn't she? In that final season of Clone Wars. So she clearly also knows of his redemption, and she hasn't spoken to him before since all of that went down. Why isn't there more thematic stuff happening with this? Anyway, let's move on from that. Jason hears lightsabers in the world between worlds. He is a Jedi and he has senses and things that can't be explained, but he hears them fighting in this astral plane, which, as I just mentioned, is kind of weird, because if we're going with the notion that Anakin, all of this is some kind of like weird spirit quest that Ahsoka's on, and Anakin isn't actually physically there, then she's not actually physically having a lightsaber fight. She could be wrestling with some emotion in her own mind, and the visual representation of what we're seeing on screen is that Anakin is there and she's kind of working all of this shit out. What the actual thing she's working out is also very confusing, and we'll get to that later because we're both kind of dumbfounded by that as well. What the ultimate life lesson is that is learned at the entire end of this thing, which is very strange.
Life lesson, well said.
Yes. So he's like, oh, I think I know where Ahsoka is. He just hears these lightsaber fight, but how does he know it's the world between worlds? Can he just sort of like pinpoint target it? Because doesn't he?
No. He didn't. I just figured he knew she was like in the water somewhere.
Oh. Could you just like look over the edge of the cliff and just, hello up there? I seem to have fallen off a cliff. I'm still alive, but I'm very badly injured.
Well, I think it's like there's a door somewhere in the ocean, or maybe the ocean itself is like a door, and he's sensing it through the door.
Is that just one patch of water, or can you drop into any part of that sea and enter the world between worlds?
Unclear, but you probably need the help of a ghost.
Because that's some cracking bit of luck if she just fell off the cliff and landed in that one puddle of water. That one portion of the sea that would take her into the world between worlds.
Well, there's a hole in the bottom of the sea with a log and a frog.
The way I see it was, she hit the water, she went unconscious.
I think that hole leads to well, I know she physically wasn't in the water.
No, she was. No, they fish her out of the water.
But then, but that's where, like, I think she was deposited afterward.
See, I read this scene as she hit the water, went unconscious, and all of this shit is just kind of playing out in her mind. Why it takes place in the world between worlds is beyond me. I feel like that's just, again, that's just a fan servicey thing, I think, from Dave Filoni to legitimize all of these animated things that he's created into live action. But it just doesn't feel like Star Wars. It's just weird. Anyway, he's like, oh yeah, I think I know where Ahsoka is. I can hear her having a lightsaber fight, so she's out there somewhere. And they're like, okay, Jason, we're going to leave you alone on this planet. Now, I'm going to counter my point from what I said earlier. This is a positive, because she's not taking Jason into an active war zone anymore. However, this is the ultimate extreme of that, where she's leaving him alone on a strange planet where there were just a second ago Sith on there. They could come back, maybe. I don't know. There could be people tracking them.
They're not coming back. They're going to another galaxy. They're still on their way to another galaxy.
But you know, it's all fine because he has Chopper. You know, what's Chopper? What's Chopper going to do? Is he going to flex on him?
This episode?
Is Chopper just going to like flex on whoever shows up? I don't know, man.
Oh, dude, Chopper will fuck you up. Watch Rebels.
So she'll take her son into space where shit is blowing up, and there's
Chopper kills people.
There's like
that happened in a kids show.
We better hope that he does the same thing, because she just abandons her son unattended on a planet. Okay, you got Chopper there, great, but if you've already brought him this far, just carry on. If you know where you're going to get Ahsoka, surely finding Ahsoka in a puddle of water and just like doing sort of like, you know, like Halo rescue is a lot safer than space combat. It's weird. Also, I've mentioned this last time, but the fact that a human can boink whatever kind of alien here it is, and the offspring is just a human child with green hair, which isn't even the same shade
no. It's not that it's going to be a human child with green hair. It's that it's going to be one or the other. It's not going to be like an amalgamation. Because there's a clone trooper that has Twi'lek children in the Clone Wars.
Right, okay. I'm not sure that's how it works. It's very strange. But here's the thing, like, I mean, I still would mind, but if his hair was the same shade of green that she is, and it really isn't, it's just like this dark...
It was in the cartoon.
Yeah, it's like Joker green hair, isn't it, in this? It's
yeah,
weird.
I'm assuming that, like, the melanin in the hair that's making it less her shade of green is on account of his father, the Freddie Prinze.
Yeah.
Of Bel Air.
Let's see what else we got. Brinsley says a what if series would be fun to see. I agree. I would like that. Bath Time says
what if they made a what if series?
Bath Time says 1,000,000% Anakin doesn't kill the younglings but recruits them as child soldiers. My men are exceptionally trained, programmed from birth. Yeah, they never really did anything with that, did they? And then he uses them to kill Obi-Wan. Interesting. It's going to be that same one that talks to Obi-Wan that like does the killing blow, isn't it? It's like, because someone erased it from the archived memory. It's going to be that kid. He's going to be the one that kills. He'll be like, the younglings send their regards. And they're going to stab they're going to like Julius Caesar the fuck out of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Brinsley says, I agree with the more time, but just give me a great standalone story. It doesn't need to be another trilogy. What I think what I enjoy most about Star Wars is to me the saga is 1 to 6. I've just kind of blanked 7, 8, and 9. Like it's a what if, it's an Elseworld thing. I choose to just forget about it, and the end of 6 feels conclusive enough to me. What I enjoy is stuff that, if it's done well, mind you, because Kenobi wasn't a good example of this, Andor was a great example of this, and Rogue One was sort of an alright one. I really liked it at the time, but I've kind of listened to it a little bit. I like stuff that fleshes out the current saga that we have. I really like, again, I stress when it's done well, and I think Andor was really done well. We got to see a different side to the Empire that we hadn't really seen before. The Empire actually felt oppressive and terrifying. They made one TIE fighter, something that we see a dime a dozen in the sequel trilogy. In all of the films, you just see a TIE fighter, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. But they made one TIE fighter that was kind of patrolling the area, fucking terrifying. I think it was like episode 4, I think, of Andor. When they were kind of on that Scottish Highlands kind of place. So yeah, just something like that, something that enhances the current saga that we already have. I like when they do stuff like that. Or, you know, just a well done Old Republic. But I don't want to see an Old Republic and, you know, the old-timey lore kind of stuff done by Disney, because I just know they'll fuck it up. What you need is a sort of Peter Jackson-y kind of person, someone who's truly passionate about that lore and wants to bring that visually to the screen in a compelling story, well written, well acted, everything, you know, conceptually, everything. That would be great. I'd love to see something like that, but you've got to find a passionate director, and you need a studio system that is just gonna trust in that process and trust in that creativity, that they know what they're doing. Let's see. Oh, this is one for you, JX. Oh, you've already replied to it. He's a little busy at the moment. Anyway, let's get to the Bane episode.
To the Bane episode?
Yeah, well, the main thing that we'll be talking about.
You think Ezra is your ally?
I've got a note that says more lightsabers. They continue fighting. then she falls off. He slices the bridge. It's like something out of Thor. It reminded me of the Bifrost, like the Rainbow Bridge.
I have a note on that. Anakin says, "I haven't taught you everything yet," before performing the same trick Ahsoka did on Maul in season 7.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up.
But he cuts the bridge and she falls off, and she falls into the Clone Wars.
Don't you hate when that happens?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a fucking grind, isn't it, when that happens?
It's like the back rooms.
And I knew we were going to get this. When they said, oh, Filoni's directing this episode, they're going to put it in cinemas, I knew this was going to be the fan service episode, and it really is. On the
first
hand,
live-action Mark I Clone Wars. Clone Troopers.
I mean, is it cool that we get to see Clone Wars era stuff again, and Anakin being a general and wearing the armor? Yeah. But they don't do anything with it. And I want to talk about the cinematography for this as well, because you could have gone balls to the wall with this stuff and you could have showed us truly something spectacular. What we get is a handful of actors on a fucking soundstage on a bit of sand.
Smoke machine.
And then the smoke machine just going 10 to the dozen. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it look all legit. You know, like the Geonosis fight when the fucking thing crashes down and the billows of smoke, and you've got the clone troopers and the droids firing through, and it all looks really cool. Here's the difference, though. That's effective, and that's actually some of the best cinematography in that film, and probably all of the prequel trilogy as well. I love that stuff. But it's a spectacle, and it's great to look at. This just feels really flat. It's shot pretty in an uninteresting way. It kind of reminded me of the cinematography from Kenobi, and that it looks really low budget, and it's you can see where they're, we don't have the money for all these elaborate CGI. You know, CGI whales are expensive, so we can't have some kind of cityscape, or I don't even know where they're fighting. Was it Christophsis, their first mission? If it was meant to be from episode 1 of the Clone Wars, or if it was even predated that, I'm not sure. And they kept doing this shit. There's the bit in the infirmary.
Looks around the fog. I don't recognize this battle.
But you don't see you get a lot of there's armies of droids approaching. We must be ready. Ignites the lightsaber, but you don't see any droids. You don't.
It feels like it feels like the cave you go in on Korriban, and that's the Old Republic 2. Because in that you're playing as a general who was in the Mandalorian Wars, and so you're just in a cave, and then you're talking to a Republic general, like a Republic officer, like, the Mandalorians are about to overwhelm us. What do we do? And the idea is, like, do you make the same decision you made before? Would you change anything? Are you okay? Are you content having gone against the Jedi Council and all that stuff? But you're in a fucking cave, and they're doing this, and like there were mines on the bridge. You know what I'm talking about if you played it.
Yeah. I've got a note here as well saying young Ahsoka looks weird, and I think that's just once again another translation from something you're so used to seeing in animation, and the certain voice coming from that character at that age, and that not being what it is in live action. It looks like a really crappy cosplay. And then they try and do the thing, and I know some people are going to argue, well, this is the whole point of what the prequels were going for. He says, like, we were trained to be keepers of the peace. I'm like, that's a line from Attack of the Clones. We're trained to be keepers of the peace, but now we're training to be soldiers. I'm like, you did the thing. You're doing the thing. But she mentions that, I don't want to fight. I'm in a fucking active war zone right now. She's a Padawan with no training. I actually couldn't tell if this takes place around the same time that we get Ahsoka in episode 1 of the Clone Wars, or if this was even before that. And
it's not episode 1. The movie is not episode 1.
No, I know there's a couple of episodes from
episode 1
season 2
has Yoda on Tridaria. He's gonna convince the king of
that's episode.
Praeteria to help the Republic.
Yeah, but I mean chronologically, the first time that we see Ahsoka is on. I think it's Christophsis.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this meant to be Christophsis? Is this meant to be from that same kind of time when they talk about her first mission?
It seems too dirty.
Yeah. But I mean, you don't get any sense of the background or any kind of location or anything like that at all. But I've got sending a Padawan with no proper training into an active war zone and like gunfire coming at them, and she's just like this child, and he's like, "Come on, pick up your lightsaber, like let's keep going, let's keep leading the charge." I'm like, okay, but even that aside, if it is meant to be happening around the same time as those first couple of episodes of Clone Wars, Ahsoka is so much more like enthusiastic and spunky and like sassy and things like that on the battlefield. She's she can think on her feet. She actually kind of helps out Anakin and Obi-Wan a lot of the times, and is very headstrong and almost sees it like a game and like fun and games, and she seems very sure of herself.
To that throughout the Clone Wars, like they purposefully like start her off more naive and like less likable so that people can grow to like her as she develops. It was very deceptive. I respect it.
But then in this one, she's just not that at all, and she just down tools and says, "What I don't want to fight," like a petulant child. I'm like, motherfucker, do you see where you are? You've been fighting this fight for seemingly a long time, and now you're just having these thoughts now? Like, get the fuck to work. Like, you know why you're here. It's not like you just got dropped here with no explanation as to what was happening. You're in the middle of a fucking galactic war. Okay.
Well, hang on. Wait. Did you think you were looking at a memory?
Well, that was going to be my next note. This is really confusing to me, and it wasn't necessarily from this first flashback. It was when they go to the next one, where we get like the clone armored walkers beside them. Because I was thinking if
that wasn't what happened when they were there. Like that conversation happened in the Ahsoka show.
Yeah, so this is what I wanted to bring up to you. Is this she just now like how Anakin can shapeshift into Vader whenever he wants to, and Sith Anakin and Jedi Anakin, she shapeshifts into younger Ahsoka, but they go back to this flashback. But
she doesn't do it. It's just what happened to her.
I thought we were seeing a glimpse as to a moment in their lives together from back then. But I guess it isn't, and I guess that is kind of adult Ahsoka's words coming out of a younger guy's of Ahsoka. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But I thought that defeats the purpose of what the World Between Worlds is meant to be. It's meant to be you actually walk into these doorways in time. You can't necessarily change anything because you would have always been there.
I don't even know if you can walk through one that you didn't walk through to get into.
Well, so is this the World Between Worlds then? I guess it is.
Of course it's the World Between Worlds. Look at it.
But it goes against his own continuity and rules of what he created in the first place.
Except the thing is, what he created, you're saying that like he created this complex codex of what you can do with the World Between Worlds. He had two people walk through it. He had the Emperor at the end of one portal do some sorcery to have fire travel through it and try to grab him, but it didn't work. And then they went back to where they came from, and they tried to go help somebody else, but they're like, that would create a paradox. You can't do that.
Yeah, they
don't say that, but that's what it amounts to. He died saving you. If you save him, then he won't save you to save him.
I'm just so confused. Yeah, because like Ahsoka didn't have a problem fighting in the Clone Wars show, but she has a problem fighting here. She's kind of really miserable about everything, but she seems really enthusiastic and, as you mentioned, like naive in those first few episodes, which isn't remotely what we get here. I thought when we see them like walking around in these environments, I was thinking, okay, so if they've entered this portal into this realm, into this past event with these two characters, are there now two Anakins walking around and two
This is not,
Ahsokas
they're
walking
not
around.
there.
So it's not that. So they're going on some kind of like ethereal spiritual quest where she's recalling all of these times in their lives, and it's kind of half remembered, and they're having new conversations. Okay, well then it's not portals to doorways in time, is it? Which I thought was the entire antithesis of what.
Again, you're assuming that they didn't go through a portal to get to this memory.
Like, no, but what I'm saying is that that's what has been established previously when we have seen the world between worlds.
What I'm saying is you're talking about like it's like having an iPad and a Switch, and you're assuming that because you're limited to one thing with a Switch, you're limited to it with an iPad. The thing is, no, these are two entirely different devices that function pretty much that fundamentally function the same way. You can do these two. It's possible for you to do these two things in the world between worlds. And I'm just going to point out, there's no door in this episode. It's not like what happens in Rebels where they go and find the geographic or chronologic location of the memory that they want to revisit. She just falls off a cliff and lands in the memory.
So why make it the world between worlds then? Don't make it the world between worlds.
Because that's where Anakin is. Because that's where the ghost is happening. And also, I'm assuming.
But this is all in the mind anyway. It's not a ghost. It's not a ghost.
But again, I don't. But no. But the thing. No, we both know that this is actually Anakin. Of course, this is actually Anakin.
Well, it's not Force
She's
Ghost
in the
Anakin.
world
It would
between...
be.
What?
The only way that this can be physical Anakin is if he would have left during Revenge of the Sith. If it's not,
but I already told you. But we already talked. It doesn't matter if he's see-through in the real world. He's in the world between worlds.
Dude, he'd be in robes. I don't care. He'd be in robes.
Oh my god! Do you actually think more powerful than you can possibly imagine?
You get to change the wardrobe.
Can't change your fucking robes. Piss off! I'm leaving this stream.
This is not a Force ghost. This is not even remotely a Force ghost. This is all in a mind.
Obviously a Force. This is stupid that you're actually taking this art.
So you're saying now that Force ghosts can have a full-blown lightsaber fight,
especially in the world between worlds. But shit, of course they can. If they can manipulate the physical world, which they've been able to do since Return of the Jedi, of course they can use a lightsaber fight.
Well, you know, the sequel trilogy kind of fucked that up,
cannot
didn't it?
interfere in Bespin because it's way over there, and I can't. It's not near a nexus of the Force because that's how Force ghosts work.
Right.
Like Chris, you've been dying on this hill that has not existed since 1983.
What do you mean?
I mean, Force ghosts have been able to physically interact with the world. Like, I cannot interfere can mean I can't interact with the physical world. But it can also mean a number of other...
It's very much showed in the original trilogy.
And then the original... Except in Return of the Jedi. You know, when Obi-Wan pushes Flora out of his way.
They're there for guidance. That's all they can do. They can't actually have, like, a tangible fucking twirly lightsaber fight.
Except for when they do, in the movies, when they do. And the shows.
When do they have...
When he pushes the fucking plants out of his way.
It was The Last Jedi that did it. That was the movie that said,
No, it was Return of the Jedi that did it.
A Force ghost can create lightning... the Rise of Skywalker, they can hold a lightsaber and probably ignite a fucking lightsaber.
Return of the Jedi, they can push the vines out of the way.
He walks through it.
No, he doesn't. He takes his hand and he pushes it out of his way.
Look, it was old Alec Guinness. Okay, it was. He got to sit down.
No. This doesn't suit my argument, so I'm going to choose to ignore it.
I will return to play Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I want to sit
all
down.
I'm saying is, in Episode 6, we see them physically interact, and in Episode 5, when they first introduced, we see the physical limitations of the Force ghosts in the forms of how present they are. On Hoth, Obi-Wan is barely visible. On Dagobah, next to the tree, it's like he's there.
Okay, but
that's the limitation.
Can you please accept the fact that there is a difference between sitting on a log and giving advice and picking up a fucking lightsaber and having a full-blown duel, regardless if they're a ghost or
But
not.
this isn't sitting on a lug. This is physically taking your hand and pushing something out of your way. Why is that different than picking something up?
Please try and see the difference of sitting down and having a quiet conversation and words
But
of
we're
wisdom with a
not
character.
sitting down and have. But no, no. Go back.
No, we could have that.
Actually
We
talk
could
about
have had
this.
that. We could have had that. We could have had a nice conversation with just Anakin and Ahsoka. That's all I wanted. Shit.
I don't.
Why we got to have a
but
lightsaber
again-
fight for?
But again, the sitting. What?
I'm saying if you're dying on the hill that this is actually Force Ghost Anakin that can
course it
shapeshift
is.
into Vader and can shapeshift into Sith eyes and then also change the
Dude,
fact that he's
he can
got a...
shapeshift into anything.
Well, the lightsaber wasn't real, right? That's not his lightsaber. So he can also Force Ghost project a lightsaber.
They're in the Force right now. Like the blade is the Force of like the lightsaber blade is the Force.
God.
Like
So-
like I said in
You could just
in the
materialize a
physical world,
lightsaber.
in the world between worlds, if you're a Force ghost, I would assume you can probably.
So he could do... Okay, well shit, Anakin, like, can you also materialize like 10 extra arms and lightsabers to go with those arms and be like a...
probably. If he really thought about it,
Be
yeah,
like
I'm sure
a
he could.
Hindu god with lightsabers.
Why not? Why wouldn't he be able to do that?
Anakin, can you like do that, but like materialize and kill Thrawn for us and kill Snoke and destroy Starkiller
we
Base?
need Thrawn to be Force sensitive and next to a Force nexus.
Okay, we can fix that. We can get them there. If it means
We
saving
can
the
make
day,
Thrawn
we can
Force
do it.
sensitive.
We can do it.
We can make Thrawn Force sensitive. Let's do it.
This is all fucking horseshit. All of this. Okay. That's cool that you have that read. You think
This all goes against my headcanon. It does. I'll just go up the chimney. I will.
That was a very nice Daisy Ridley impression right there. Thank you for sharing that. You just needed to add Master Skywalker at the start of it, and you pretty much had it down.
Yeah.
My read on this is that this is all just in her head. This isn't like actual Force Ghost Anakin. This is just her wrestling with some
I don't even
deep
think
internal
she's
shit.
physically in the water during this part.
This whole episode just makes no sense and should just be removed. It could quite easily be edited as well. We'll talk about that later. Here's where I had the note. It's cool seeing Hayden back, though. I just wish he'd been given better material. And when we see him as General Anakin and he's got the whole armor on, like the shoulder pads and everything, it's like you got him back the other year. You got Ewan McGregor back, and they were both enthusiastic, and the fans wanted to see him back. Why didn't you just give us like fucking live action Clone Wars, or just give us like scenes, give us flashback scenes of them, his earlier training, the nest of the nest of Gundarks, anything. You could have. Everyone said like, oh, we never got to see these two characters together. Well, this was like your perfect opportunity to show flashbacks of that. And we never got any of that, so we get a brief glimpse of it here, but it's not enough, and you know it all feels very low budget, as I mentioned, on like a fucking soundstage, and the limitations of it, and it's just shit. I just really wish he was given better material, because as I say, I do believe he's matured as an actor, and I think he could do it, and I think he'd be amazing at doing it, but unfortunately the material's just not up to snuff, at least not in my opinion. There's a line where we now cut to Hera and Hu Yang in the ship, and she asks Hu Yang about Anakin. She's like, "Oh, what was he like?" And he's like, "Intense." And you meant to go, "Ah, yeah, that's an understatement." Why doesn't everyone, especially in the New Republic, and especially if someone of Hera's standing, how does everyone not know about Anakin? Especially like being surrounded by Ahsoka. How does she not know anything about like Anakin, what he did, like the most feared man in the galaxy, and the redemption and everything? Surely Luke would have mentioned that.
No. Vader and Anakin are two separate people to the galaxy right now.
Well,
like, why doesn't Hera know about this war hero from a war that was not relevant, that stopped being relevant when she was 5?
she's a wardrobe. Like, you think she would have some knowledge on this. Like, she's been best pals with Ahsoka. This never came up in conversation at least once.
I mean,
she's completely in the dark about everything to do with Anakin. Like, I just feel like people would know this shit.
I mean,
like,
I gotta be honest.
Luke would have mentioned this.
Okay,
shit,
actually, wait. I gotta throw something out. See, I have no idea what Ahsoka's relationship with Hera and Sabine is, because she was in about 5 Rebels episodes.
I mean, they seem like they have deep respect for each other, and like I guess
Definitely.
they have a friendship.
But I have no idea what their history and relationship is now, because clearly a lot of it has happened off screen. Like it made okay, maybe not 5 episodes, but less than 10.
Well, we get Mon Mothma, who says that you know, you've basically led this mission and this wasn't authorized. What evidence do you have of Thrawn's return? We don't have any. What evidence do you have of this and that? We don't have any. She's like, right, get your ass back, and we need Ahsoka as well, because she's going to have to try and testify for you. So to do that, there has to be some level.
Whales.
So for Ahsoka to try and vouch for Hera, it's got to suggest some kind of closeness there. But yeah, I don't know. It just confuses me.
I mean, she's like Ahsoka. That doesn't imply that at all in this scenario. That specifically doesn't imply this at all. It's Ahsoka is a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that isn't implied at all. I'm saying that specifically doesn't imply that. Why are there no spaces in the first 2 names in your name? And why only 1 space in your name?
Oh, I don't know. I have a note here. I don't even see the name.
Oh, okay. I just noticed it and it bothered me.
I've already mentioned this, so I thought I don't get how the War Between Worlds works. They are changing ages and entering past events, but don't they already exist in that timeline? So are the 2 Anakins and 2 Ahsokas walking around? The Siege of Mandalore. There was more fan service. We get like a Darth Maul kind of helmet. Siege of Mandalore shit. I then have in capitals, how is Anakin here? We still don't get an explanation as to how Anakin is there. There's also a moment, and I love this because I'm a big South Park fan. Have you seen the South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut movie?
Yeah.
You know, the whole like Canadian thing. Now Hayden Christensen is very Canadian, and it was all a dead giveaway in 1 line, which reminds me of the South Park movie. He says, "Is this what this is a boot?" Like he says the line. He says a boot. And it was great, because I've never heard Anakin say that before. That. Yeah, is this what this is about? And I thought, oh, there it is. Canadian Anakin. It's great. I think we then go to another lightsaber fight. I put, Jesus fucking Christ, there doesn't have to be a lightsaber every few seconds. It's like we're losing the audience, get the lightsabers back. I then have a paragraph. I'll just rattle through it quickly, and then obviously we can go over to you on it. I put, Anakin was wasted. What was the point of this? Nothing was explained. You could literally just have her fall off the cliff and wake up in the water. So Anakin just tells her to live. Couldn't she have done that anyway? Why did we need the War Between Worlds? It only serves as a bullshit way for the good guys to find Ahsoka and get the whole team back together. Bullshit writing. Can anyone else hear what is happening in the War Between Worlds in earlier seasons? Yeah, because I guess it was like a Jedi thing. Like, I'm not saying that, oh, why can't Sabine, or like, why can't Hera hear something in the War Between Worlds? But as far as I know, I mean, I don't know if there have been enough examples. Have Jedi been able to sense? There haven't been
enough examples. There's been 1 time somebody's gone to the World Between Worlds.
And did anyone need to find someone there? Did like Kanan go like, where the fuck is Ahsoka gone, or where the fuck is Ezra gone? Like, let me use the Force, and oh, he's in that.
There was nobody to do it.
Right. Okay.
At the time.
But I think, and we've already had this conversation.
Actually,
earlier.
wait. Somebody technically actually does do that, and it's Palpatine.
Hmm?
Like, while Ezra and Ahsoka are in the world between worlds,
Mm-hmm.
Palpatine, I'm assuming using the magic bowl from Clone Wars, where he does the ritual where you get the wrist action and who's the smashing voice actor who played?
Tim
Oh my
Curry?
god, Tim Curry. Yeah, Tim Curry. Thank you. Yeah, you got Tim Curry's doing Palpatine's voice, doing like a ritual, talking an ancient Sith. Again, you got the wrist action, and then he shoots the bowl with lightning. I'm assuming he's looking into this bowl in Rebels, and then you hear, instead of Tim Curry, Ian McDiarmid, but like old, deep voiced Ian McDiarmid, like Ezra Bridger. And then like smoke and fire is like trying to grab him, and they run and then close the portal or something.
So the only way that someone can sense someone there is by going double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble, basically, is what you're saying.
I think there needs to be some sort of opening. Is what that boils down
Whereas
to.
Jason just goes, "Oh no, I can hear lightsaber fights."
Well, assume that there's an opening in the ocean that Ahsoka went in.
Yeah. But this kind of goes back, and I want to get your take on this, because I'm really glad that we're on the same page with this, is that what's I mean, I'll pass over to you first. What is this life-changing lesson that Ahsoka comes to realize at the very end?
No fucking idea.
It's
she wants to live.
Do you want to live or die? And it goes back to the flashback scene that we see at the Clone Wars, where this war's happening around her, and Anakin's telling, like, you need to carry on the fight, and she says, what if I don't want to fight anymore? And he's like, look, well, you're going to die. If you sit where you are, you're going to die. You need to get
that line, by the way, then you'll die, should have been, then you will die.
Then you will die, yeah, agreed.
Yeah, exactly, because he says that to Ahsoka as Vader.
Yeah. But just giving up and dying has never been an option for Ahsoka. She's always been in the fight. She's never had a scene where she's given up.
Nothing to me.
It just comes completely out of left.
Well, I mean, she left the Jedi Order, but I don't think that counts.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't in terms. That wasn't like a Luke kind of thing in The Last Jedi, where he straight up wants to give up being a Jedi, and he goes to that island to die.
I mean, yeah, no. So what?
Because he takes himself completely out of the fight. He's not getting involved at all. He wants to just remain unseen and let all of this shit blow over. Whereas Ahsoka's still trying to fight the good fight. She's just doing it on her own means.
Yeah, Ahsoka has a better idea of what a Jedi should be versus what a Jedi is, and Luke just sees himself as a Jedi.
So Anakin helps her come to this realization, either in her own mind, or if it is actually a proper Force Ghost projection of Anakin there, that you've got to carry on and you've got to keep fighting and you can't give up. But she hadn't given up. She was fighting.
What can anyone do?
She was fighting
when faced with death.
What can anyone do? Yeah, exactly. She got punted off a fucking cliff. Sorry, she got bested in a fight and got knocked unconscious, and here we are. It's not like she was just sitting and doing nothing and not being proactive. So this whole life lesson, and because I thought this was pointless anyway, but this whole conclusion of the episode that was meant to be this huge epiphany, life-changing moment for the character just felt really flat.
I choose to live.
I choose to live. What does that mean?
Good for you.
What does that mean? And
I'm doing that. I'm staying alive, whether you're a brother or whether you're a mother.
But I mentioned this to you earlier. Like, this scene, this kind of revelation, or something akin to this, would have worked well in The Last Jedi, where you are presented with a Luke who has become disillusioned, has given up, is apathetic, is a coward, is fearful. You have his father appear to him, and he works all the shit out with him, and he actually has a conversation with his son and says, do you choose to live or do you choose to die? and in that moment he makes the decision, he gets back in the fight, and he goes to fucking Crate. That would be great. That rhymes.
Chooses to die.
So something like that would have worked, and I equated it to a kind of Lion King moment. Also, strangely, also voiced by James Earl Jones. And that you have that moment where Simba has been hanging out with Timon and Pumbaa all of his life. He's lethargic. He's not doing anything. He hasn't taken his place in the circle of life. And the ghost of his father appears to him with booming James Earl Jones voice and tells him, "You are more than this. You are more than you have become. Remember who you are. Get back and claim your throne. Get back and do what it is you do." A scene like that with Luke would have worked absolute wonders. But doing it with Ahsoka, who has never been that apathetic character,
yeah,
it's a strange choice, especially because like Filoni penned all this as well. Like, you think he would know these characters better, considering he created
this
them.
could have been like her a moment for her to like readopt the title of Jedi.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Like make your choice. I am a Jedi. Great. Good for you. Maybe put some color in those sabers, babe.
Yeah. And they do. You mentioned
and
this.
it makes Yoda still true, even though there's no reason he would know.
You mentioned this earlier as well, and there's a moment that's clearly trying to ape off that moment from Return of the Jedi where she throws the lights. Luke throwing that lightsaber away. Never, I'll never turn to the dark side. They try and do that moment again. But with just none of the impact. But yeah, I was going to ask you, well, what should have been the takeaway lesson at the end of this? But I really like that idea. Yeah, that's great.
Especially because it's like, but there is an issue with that.
Go on.
And it's, if that were the case, if her lessons were to be learned, and then she were to come to that conclusion, bringing those lessons with her, we would not have episode 8. They simply would not happen. Because,
what a terrible.
No. I'm not saying like.
No, I know what you mean.
Oh, we would lose it. I'm saying you can't do that, because if you did that, episode 8 wouldn't actually work. Like the failures of the Jedi have already been addressed. By this new prodigy with their white sabers.
But again, like, it was a Jedi.
Has she done this yet?
No, not yet. But the whole like, and it was a Jedi who saved him. Like, that's pretty big. Like, it was a Jedi who saved her mentor's life and brought him back. Like, that's a pretty. It was her son. That's a pretty noble thing for a Jedi to do. But yeah, no, I like that. It would have brought the character full circle. Anakin himself becoming disillusioned from the Jedi Order, and look what that led to. But then Anakin showing up and saying, "No, being a Jedi is pretty good. Keep doing what you're doing, but you got to become a Jedi again. Let's do the thing." That would be great. I would love that. Or I can't think of another life lesson now that she could have learned, but she seemed to be doing it. 1,000 generations live in you now, Ahsoka. I don't know.
More like 4.
I think this is the bit where she gets rescued and she's with Hera, and we get some long drawn out dialogue scenes where there's like 3 seconds of pauses for silence between every sentence, and it gets really irritating. And I just put in capital letters, "Ugh, these characters have no life in them. What is Ahsoka and Hera's relationship? She doesn't seem What is Ahsoka and Sabine's relationship? She doesn't seem concerned at all for her disappearance." Yeah, she's just like, "Oh yeah, we need to get on. We should like try and save them." And this is the thing where it's like, yeah, she's a Jedi and she's trying to remain calm and collected and void of emotion, but again, Ahsoka was never that, because she wasn't a Jedi. She wanted to break away from that. She wanted to embrace her emotions with shit like that. You could argue that she's more mature now in her older age, but even still, you think there would be more urgency there. I've mentioned before, stuff with where Luke sees Obi-Wan about to die in A New Hope. There's urgency there.
Yes, a little Luke-see.
Yeah, you have Obi-Wan and Yoda concerned for Luke wanting to rush off to save his friends in Empire Strikes Back. there is fire to these characters. There is life to these characters. And if Ahsoka and Sabine are meant to be, like that with each other, you think she'd be bringing something out in that performance to really showcase that, and we're just not getting it. Hera says about the villains and Sabine, we have to go after them. I'm like, they jumped to fucking hyperspace. How do you know where they're going?
I'm like, what are you gonna do? Like, they are gonna have the technology to do that in 30 years.
Yeah,
years.
They didn't have the map. Space is a very big place. It's great, Hera. Yeah, that's. What do you think we were fucking trying to do all of this time, you dumb broad? Like, shut the fuck up.
We have to do something. Thank you.
That was such a terrible line. But the worst line is the final one. I'll get to that in a second. This is interesting. So this was a stream of consciousness. So obviously we're reviewing this in hindsight now. We've seen the whole episode, but this is me casting my mind back to as I'm watching this episode live, and I'm doing these notes, and it was right after this. Guarantee we're gonna get a Dune scene where they ride on whales. Now I thought Ahsoka, like the Kwisatz Haderach, was gonna lash
the dog a bone
thing, and like ride the fucking space whales, and they were gonna ride them into hyperspace. I thought that was what was gonna happen. Seconds later, I put, oh god, it's gonna happen. Convenient. She looks up, and their means of transport just happens to be flying over that planet at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
Convenient.
And they happen to be getting ready to jump to hyperspace too.
Great.
Like,
great writing.
I'm not. That's more what I like, the fact that they were because they were already there. We saw them before, but the fact that they're getting ready to jump to hyperspace now.
Yeah. Terrible writing.
That's the convenient.
Terrible writing.
That's plot convenience.
I put the writing.
Oh yeah, no.
Go on, sorry.
I've got a note here. She's gonna want to ride the space wheels to the other galaxy. We know they're susceptible to telepathy, as demonstrated by Ezra, though he was always really good with animals. One of the reasons I think he's gonna be on the dark side when we see him. Mm-hmm. Jason Solo was really good with animals, with the Force.
I don't want to like rag on kid actors too much, because I know Star Wars has a long history of that, but he is not good. the actor who plays Jason, but yeah,
he's better than Jake Lloyd.
I don't feel like I've seen enough Daniel of Jason. I just put the writing is awful. Bullshit things happen for the convenience of plot. Why are the whales suddenly here? They just are. And then I have a, oh god, it's gonna happen, facepalm emoji. I put this and as all of this was transpiring, I couldn't believe what I was fucking watching. And this is just rant, just stream of consciousness.
I want to point something out here if you hadn't had any feelings about it. It's kind of weird seeing Ahsoka, seeing like the seam between her head and her leku.
I don't remember seeing that. I wasn't looking.
Yeah, like there's a time when she did, because in all the flashbacks we see there's always something
it's
here.
Like the headband thing, right? That separates it.
There's the headband thing. There's like some crown, some chain, and then in there's a veil at one point, and then in this, she wakes up in the infirmary and her head is naked, and it feels weird.
I feel like Shark T had a much more spectacular like what do you
Leku?
Say? Yeah. Oh yeah, and General Grievous likes that shit as well. General Grievous is like caressing that shit. Deleted scene, granted, but still. Poor Shark T. She buys it like 4 times, doesn't she? Across different media platforms.
She's died a lot. She died twice in that movie.
I think the canon one is that she dies at the Jedi Temple, doesn't she? Do you see her on a hologram or something get killed?
So in one of the ones from Revenge of the Sith, she's just like she's just meditating. And then Anakin walks in and stabs her in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what is it, Skywalker? and then they use the footage of her getting killed by Grievous.
Oh, okay, got you.
And then she gets killed by Starkiller.
Yeah, I remember that.
In
Yeah.
Force Unleashed,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a hologram of her getting just cut down horrifically into 3 pieces in the Lego game. She's just like, I'm Shakti.
Yeah. Those games were brutal, man. What else? More stream of consciousness. I just put, this show is absolute toss. There was one bit, and then there was one guy on the ship. I put, is this ship made up entirely of women? This was like the Rebel Home One ship that shows up to stop them doing what they're doing, to intercept them. And it for a second, it looked like it was an entire female crew. And I thought, oh, Disney. Oh, Disney. But then there was one guy who says, like, Captain, there's a fucking whales on the horizon, iceberg.
They've escaped sea parks.
Yeah. A sea parks.
Parents died in a fire.
At sea
parks. A fire. At sea parks.
More stream of consciousness as I was getting more and more confused and agitated as to what I was watching, because I know that some people are watching this just lapping this shit up. I put, what the fuck am I actually watching right now? Okay, this is it.
Weird that the space whales can just kind of stop midair and like hover there.
Yeah, this scene seemed to go on for ages as well. I don't know if you felt like...
I don't think there's anything that flies naturally that actually can do that.
Yeah. It was really dragged on as well, I thought, this whole whale shit at the end. They were really just...
Oh yeah, when the Asian pilot flew up to the ship, I have a note here from that. I really hope this scene is a big General Hugs reference.
Oh no. Brinsley says, I'm still here. Good to hear it, man.
Hey, Brinsley.
We'll be wrapping up shortly.
Brinsley, I have an immediate emergency communication for General Hugs. It's about his mother. So anyway, am I going to have to hear you bitch about how Jason says far, far away?
No, I don't have anything written down about that. Okay. I was probably so confused and numb about the whole whale scene and how it's clearly a Dave Filoni fetish and that he's got a thing for whales.
He clearly just liked Treasure Planet because apparently that's in there.
Yeah.
I learned that last week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There was also a bit of Avatar, The Way of Water, that whole kinship with the whales and that kind of like telepathic communication with a whale. I don't know.
That was in Rebels. I didn't see Way of Water.
But I didn't write the first fucking line down that Hu Yang is the most intelligent character in this whole show. And he says something like, how do we know where they're going, these whales? Like, we could go to anywhere.
We don't.
Like, how do we know? And then Ahsoka's like, I don't have an idea. I don't know. Like, it's a quote. It's better than it's better than going nowhere. And
here's the thing, though. It kind of is.
I'm like, this is
their best shot.
Are you fucking insane? Like, they're traveling through hyperspace. You could go anywhere. Hyperspace is so infinitesimal. So
yeah, but this is how Ezra got there.
So they've got a migration pattern. Okay, great. How do you know they're gonna was it like a fucking like National Express coach? Like they're just like a Greyhound bus? Like you're gonna have like, please exit here for Ezra as we carry on our way? They're whales.
No, the whale's just gonna fart them out.
Yeah, it's going to be Monstro from Pinocchio. It's going to sneeze them out of the blowhole.
I was thinking from Finding Nemo.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I'm not doing this.
It'll be the EAC, won't it? They'll be in that current, and it'll be like, right, get out of the current, get out of the fast-moving current.
Oh yes, yeah.
And swim
They're
straight
like,
on.
Whoa! And we were like, whoa!
Yeah.
And we were like, whoa.
Okay, now take your little fishy tails that way and swim straight on through to Sydney. Like, that's what it's going to be. No, you're right. Oh, God. Dave Filoni's a Finding Nemo fan as well. Oh, no. Oh, so, yeah, it's just... Oh, yeah, we're just going to... And I didn't think they were going to travel this way as well. The whales eat the ship.
Yeah.
So they're keeping them in the mouths.
Yep.
It's all very strange, and Hu Yang's like, we don't know where the fuck we're going. Like this is insane.
Correct.
Like, and she's just like, oh well, yeah, I've no, I don't know where I'm
Yeah,
going.
I'll,
It's just,
she's traveling like a Skywalker, except with the help.
uh, yeah, and then
Not a Skywalker, a Skywalker.
I see what you did there,
Like,
and then the final line,
a Chiss hyperspace navigator, the Skywalkers,
Mhm.
who are force sensitive, and that's why they can travel the unknown regions.
And the final line I have is where Hera says to Ahsoka, "May the Force be with you," and I just said, "Fuck off." Like that line is dead to me now. Star Wars is dead, and I'm watching this fucking whale fetish shit go on for about 10 minutes at the end of this thing. And you know that Filoni thinks this is the greatest thing ever. The CG. I will say that, like, fair play to the visual effects team. It all looks very cinematic and cool if you like whales, but I just thought, this isn't Star Wars. How is this Star Wars? What? This doesn't feel like Star Wars anymore. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. They did a thing. Brinsley, very good question. Would you be lost if you've never seen Rebels? I know enough Cliff Note stuff, so I vaguely
I'm a little
know...
lost, and I've seen Rebels.
That's a good point. I guess we're both fucked. So I would say, yes, if you've never seen Rebels, the show doesn't do a very good job at all of catching you up. This, for all intents and purposes, is basically Rebels Season 5. It's... Yeah.
No. This is Rebels Season 6. Rebels Season 5 happened off screen.
Oh, well, officially then, official release, it would be Season 5, right? They did 4 seasons of Rebels.
Yeah, I guess, but I again, there's the thing is, there's a whole, because I think they actually did a pretty good job at, like, giving you the information you need to know. It's just that knowing more information, it's now feels a little lacking.
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels like we're not hearing about important things. But I'm also, I know what the important things are, so I'm trying to think of it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't even know there's treasure underneath that rock.
Mm-hmm.
I made that analogy up just then. I'm not proud of that one, actually. I've come up with some good analogies on this show.
You have.
And
you have.
metaphors.
And we've still got another 3 weeks, so you might come up with some more as well. We'll see what you can come up with next week. Try and outdo yourself.
You thought I was tripping when I was talking about the DCEU Batman earlier, and
that was good.
I brought it.
No, that was good. That was a good one. That was a very good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think this show has done enough to kind of stand on its own feet. I think it's definitely beholden to stuff that's come before. But even then, I don't think that these live action versions really compare at all to the animated ones. The animated characters feel so much more full of life, way more personality.
Say it. They feel
more animated. They do. In this one, we've got actors who I know are accomplished actors, and I've seen them do great projects before and wonderful roles. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Rosario Dawson, I've seen in a bunch of stuff.
Have you seen Shattered Glass?
I have not.
Oh.
But it sounds like something that I need to see
movie.
now.
It's pretty good. It's about Hayden Christensen plays a journalist who famously made up all of his articles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the story of him getting caught.
Was this when Hayden Christensen was big in like the mid 2000s?
This was before. Let me put. I saw that my a cinema teacher showed me this, and said because of this movie, when I heard that Hayden Christensen was going to be in the new Star Wars, I was really excited.
Oh, it predates that. Okay. Yeah, I know he did a lot of Canadian TV and low budget films, but no, I haven't seen. I think the only other Hayden Christensen movie I've seen was Jumper. Yeah, that was bad.
That.
Samuel Jackson was in that movie as well.
Okay, so it was 2003, so it came out. It might have been made.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, it could have been made before, shelved maybe.
But but yeah, it did not. It was aired after.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this teacher I do know wasn't the biggest Star Wars fan, so it's very possible that they just hadn't seen it
Right.
and then chose to see it after they saw his performance in Shattered Glass, which was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
He does a great. Here's the thing: the things he does really well in Shattered Glass is what he does really well in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the things that he doesn't do well in Star Wars that he just doesn't do in Shattered Glass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like romance.
I think you could do that well, but I think it's just, dialogue and direction. As a lot of people have said that, and I agree with it.
No, he had this whole rant about romantic scenes, and they're like animalistic, and he just slaughter them
Mm-hmm.
like animalistic things. He hates them.
They're coarse and
I'm
rough
going
and
insane. We've been here for 2 hours.
I'm
we're
gonna wrap
almost
this shit
done.
up. I'm gonna wrap this shit up. But yeah. Overall thoughts on the series so far.
let
A
me
lot of
talk.
people, a lot of fans are probably gonna hail this as like the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm just looking at it like it's pure fan service. People are gonna get a kick out of it if they want to see their live action version of young Ahsoka and Anakin coming back. Is it cool to see Hayden Christensen back? Yeah. He's very good in the role. He's matured into it, but they just give him there's no interesting material here at all. Doesn't flesh out the character, doesn't flesh out the relationships, and it's all showy member berry shit. It's lightsaber fights because lightsabers are cool, and we get to see another lightsaber fight between them. And oh, do you remember the Clone Wars? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? Oh, hey, Snips. It's all of that stuff. The space whales. None of this feels like Star Wars to me, and we're losing ground again. It's doing the same kind of thing that Mandalorian does. It's a story that's really, really dragged out with loads of pointless cul-de-sacs. This whole episode was entirely pointless. You could remove half hour or more of this episode and the ultimate outcome doesn't really change. The actual life lesson, the moral of this thing, as we've mentioned, doesn't make any sense and isn't really congruous to the character. And we've got 3 episodes left. We still haven't got to Thrawn. I'm guessing we're probably going to get a tease at the end of next episode, and he's going to be pivotal in the last 2. And you know what? He might even be the best thing in the series. He might be the most interesting thing in the series.
Maybe.
Or they're going to Moff Gideon him, where it's just, and he's going to get dispatched within 2 episodes, and that's it. Imagine what we could have had if we could have had Thrawn all the way through this, building a good, compelling villain. Ray Stevenson, great actor. We're doing nothing with him. We've got all of these side villains as well. We've got his apprentice lady, doing nothing with her. The fucking witch lady, nothing with her. It's so not economic with the time that it's telling so far. And it's really frustrating. I'm tired of these Star Wars shows that go on for 8 episodes and the actual plot doesn't happen until the final 2 episodes. It's really irritating. We're 5 episodes in now. You could cut this shit down to maybe like 45 minutes of narrative. Guarantee. And someone's going to do it. Hell, it might even be you. Might even be me. But probably not me because I just don't care about this series so far. So, oh, hang on. We have Brinsley comments and then we'll round off after that. Brinsley. Oh shit! Yeah, I've seen Hayden Christensen in The Mouth of Madness. Of course he is. Yeah. I forgot he was in that.
So that's where he's got like the perm, right?
Yeah. Favorite Star Wars series so far? Andor for me. How about you?
Andor is definitely the best one so far. But if I were to just like sit down and throw on a random episode, if you were to like throw on a random episode of a show, I'd probably prefer it be like The Mandalorian.
Okay, yeah, no, I can see that. I think Mando is definitely more accessible as a series. Maybe not season 3. That was, I know.
Mean, I think no. Season 3 was accessible. It just was
terrible.
It happened. It took no risks. It just happened.
It reset the status quo and also introduced Lizzo and Jack Black. I bet they're fucking regretting that now with everything that's happening with Lizzo.
Ooh.
That's funny. Old Disney.
But like,
Disney.
Fingers crossed, we get Jack Black back.
No, I don't want Jack Black back. But I'm just concerned about Andor because I know that the whole
hear me out. Lizzo framed Doc Brown for the battle droids.
Oh shit.
And now he and Jack Black are in a homosexual relationship.
Of course. She wasn't being she wasn't spreading body positivity to her followers on her planet, and has now been excommunicado as queen. Was she queen of that? Yeah, she was queen of that nation, I think, wasn't she? Whatever. Yas queen. It was terrible. It was awful. I'm trying to forget it. My one concern is Andor season 2, because I know there's the whole like actors writer strike at the moment. I don't know if all of season 2's been filmed. I don't think it has, so that's probably been put on hold for a while. And my one concern is
he was also in an episode of Goosebumps, Night of the Living Dummy 3, I believe, or 2. One of those.
Okay. Oh,
Hayden Christensen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now you've said that.
I remember because at the end, his head does a 180.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a puppet. Get it?
Now you've said that, I can kind of vaguely remember that, because I used to watch Goosebumps a lot when I was a kid, and I think I know who you're talking about.
My brother was like, "That's Anakin Skywalker." I was like, "No, it isn't. That's not Jake Lloyd." And he was like, "No, you idiot." And I was like, "Dude." But that's neither here nor there.
But
we have a good relationship now.
I'm worried about Andor, because the thing is, Andor was fantastic, well written, well acted, well directed, everything that I've already mentioned, but no one watched it, and I'm concerned that Disney, you know, the bean counters, they're going to be looking at that shit. They might want to get involved and be like, hey guys, yeah, it'd be really great if you guys could add more lightsabers in here, a few more stormtroopers, and like another Death Star or something. Like, we already have a Death Star. No, like another Death Star, and we want the Emperor in there. We want Vader in there. I
want to see the Death Star of Lux.
They're going to add all of this shit in, and they're going to try and transform it into something more like this, or Kenobi, and I really hope that doesn't happen. I hope that they just have faith in that director. He's got 1 season. He wanted 5. We're not going to get it. We're only going to get 1 more, so hopefully it's not a rushed mess, because I know it's going to be skipping over a bunch of years, isn't it? I think every other episode it's going to be time jumping a year, which might be a bit of a weird watch, but... Brinsley says, I haven't caught up on all the newer seasons of Mando and Boba Fett, but doesn't sound like I'm missing much. Yeah, you're really not. Don't bother. The story was told at the end of Mando season 2. Just leave it on that, on a relatively high note, with creepy CGI Mark Hamill. I appreciate what they were trying to do with it. It was very fan servicey, and it worked for me at the time. But yeah. Anyway, I'm going to round off, because I've got to be up in 7 hours for work for a 12-hour shift. Pray for me, please. But this has been great. Loads of comments tonight. Really some familiar faces again. Great to see Brinsley back. Of course, you know, Seaworld Man's always on there. Bath Time. We very briefly also had Prisms on here too. So great to get the conversation going.
Man. Mm-hmm. Chris, you've got something new for your wall coming soon, don't you?
I would if I had wall space. It arrived today.
Oh yeah.
It arrived today. It's a huge box, so there will be an unboxing video. I'd like to say tomorrow, but I'm not going to get in until 9 after a 12-hour shift, and I'm going to be dead. So probably Friday or potentially over the weekend, but soon there will be another unboxing video, and it's a good one. It's one that I've wanted in my collection for a long time, and it's good. It's cool. So yeah, another Lord of the Rings weapon unboxing at some point. Also, I haven't been to the cinema in a long time, and I'm thinking of maybe taking myself on a double cinema day, double horror cinema day, for The Nun 2 and A Haunting in Venice. We're getting a lot of horror films coming out soon. We've got the new Saw film coming out, of course, which I'm very excited for. Massive fan of the Saw franchise. So, yeah, I might do that.
For Nun 2?
Well, I hated the first one, so I mean, it's got nowhere to go. But yeah, I could be watching it with a few ideas in mind if we're gonna make it work. We'll see. So I don't know. I might take myself on a cinema day. Who knows? But there will be videos coming out. The reviews will be returning. I promise. I've messaged one of my mates today. We're going to be starting a massive retrospective in the middle of October. He's all good for it. That's going to be coming out on Mondays, but I'll have more information on that as we get closer to the time and I actually get the video thumbnails ready. It's one I've wanted to do for years, and it's going to take well over a year to do. It's probably going to be an ongoing thing, but very much looking forward to that. It's a big anniversary, and it's very interesting in these times, because it'll be nice to look back at the history of that company and kind of where it all started. So yeah, it was really fun catching up, dude. So yeah, I hope to see you on the next video, whatever it is I do, and if not those, well, next week we'll be back for more Ahsoka. Yeah, there's the unboxing one, but if not, we'll be back here next week, 11 p.m. We're on British Standard Time, I think, at the moment. 11 p.m. UK time. There you go.
Same Ahsoka time, same Ahsoka channel.
See you, everyone. Now we wait because of the delay.
Oh my God! Now that, thank God that's over. God, yeah, that Brinsley guy, just, and SeaWorld, man. Is it over yet?
I don't know. I haven't been counting. What, 10 more seconds? Do you think 10 more?
I don't bloody know.